maximum amount that somebody can get on Social Security if they're retiring this year?
No, I do not.
Hey, so you guys might have seen that recently I was out on the streets with Richard, the camera guy. And we were asking people just general knowledge questions about retirement and Social Security, and the comments have gone wild, and some of these answers are a little bit all over the place. So I just want to address them, walk you through some real world examples. So stick around in this video so that you can work with me and our planning software to show you how these numbers actually came about and what it might look like for you. But let's start out with this first video here, looking at how much the max somebody can get for Social Security this year.
Or what is the maximum amount of Social Security income that somebody can qualify for? Monthly income.
I guess probably around $3,500.
I'm gonna say 5,000 to 6,000.
I couldn't even take a wild guess, honestly.
All right, so you might be thinking to yourself right now, your guess, but let's go in and look at the real numbers and see what this is actually all about. So if we take a look on Social Security's website, it says right here that the maximum benefit depends on the age when you retire. For example, if you retire at full retirement age in 2024, which is 66 and 10 months, then your benefit would max out at $3,822. There are some variations depending on age and delays and that type of thing, but $3,822 is the max. So what I'd like to do is take you into our planning tool, and in here we can go through a Social Security assessment to get an estimate of what kind of income someone needs to be making to get us to that maximum. Okay, so in here I've got our example, Mr. Johnny Appleseed, and Johnny Appleseed makes about $140,000 a year. Now I'm using that because that's roughly what somebody would need to be making this year to qualify for the max amount of income. But just know this, Social Security is going to be different for every single person. They're using the highest 35 years of earning, running it through their formula to come up with how much you get. Here we got Johnny Appleseed. He makes $140,000 a year. So the assessment is that if he were to get the maximum possible, which is by delaying Social Security all the way until age 70, he could get a monthly benefit amount of $4,724. But in my question to the folks on the street, I said, what's the maximum if you were to take it now? So let's take a look here. Looks like $3,839 is what our software estimates Mr. Appleseed would get. What that tells us is that he's getting about $46,000 per year. Why is this important? It's important because most people working today are going to qualify for some form of lifetime income, either through Social Security, maybe a pension, or a combination of the two. And you need to know what kind of permanent income you're going to have, so that you can then assess what your income gap is going to be. So next I'm going to go to that second question I asked, which was, how much do you need? Well, how much you need is all relevant to how much your lifestyle costs and how much you're going to get from permanent lifetime income. Whatever the gap is there, that's what we're using to assess how much income, or how much you need in total assets. So let's take a look back at the streets and see what they said.
What does the average person need to comfortably retire at 65 years old this year in California?
I would say like at least 80 grand, right?
I'd say multiple $100,000 at least.
I'd say probably around like $1 million.
Okay, so if you looked at the comments at all, you know that the lady who guessed $80,000 kind of got ripped apart in the comments. People are saying she's nuts. There's no way. How could you need $80,000 and then live off of that? Let's give her the benefit of the doubt and assume she meant that's how much income somebody would need, not how much they'd need in assets. Let's put this to the real world test. So I'm gonna jump right back into our MyBlocks program, and we have a profile built here for Johnny. Johnny is 67 years old. He's employed still, but he's just about to retire. And again, he's making $140,000 a year. He is eligible for Social Security. He's just not collecting yet. I'm going to assume, to keep it simple, he doesn't have any other retirement income. We're not going to add pensions or anything like that. We're looking at California. We're saying that Johnny here has $1 million in assets saved. Now, 80% of those assets are tied to qualified retirement accounts. Qualified retirement accounts are like 401ks, 403bs, or IRAs. The reason that's important to know what percentage of his money is tied to those accounts is because those accounts are typically going to be tax deferred, which means all of that money is taxable as income when he starts to draw it out. So we got to indicate so that we know what kind of tax liability there is. I'm going to say he's contributing 0 because he's about to retire, so he's not adding any more money. And we'll say that he's a moderate risk taker when it comes to his investment portfolio. So let's see what we get. Well, look at that. Johnny has a 99% probability of success. What that means is that if his lifestyle costs him this income you see right here, these living expenses, showing $71,000. That's roughly what the average person's living expenses will be who's retiring and making about $140,000 per year. If those are his expenses, he's all good. 46,000 of the 71 is covered by Social Security income. The remaining 25,000 he's going to be able to draw off of his retirement assets. Now I want to show you something interesting here. Let's say we increase his living expenses and we push that up just $10,000 a year at 81,000. We'll see his probability of success change. Goes all the way from 99 to 74 by increasing it only 10 grand. So you might be thinking to yourself, Matt, why can he only take $25,000 a year off of his $1 million to have a high probability of success? Well, the reason is, one, it costs a lot more than you would imagine to be able to produce the income that you need and combat inflation. So this is assuming he's taking 25% off of his accounts.
I meant to say $25,000, not 25%. All right, let's keep rolling.
We're applying inflation every year for the rest of his life, and our system's assuming that he's going to live to be 92 years old. So there are some variables you can adjust, but in this example, he cannot take more than 25K off of that million and have a 99% probability of success. It tells us, one, everyone's situation is so unique. The choices you have made and what your lifestyle looks like today and how much you have been investing over the years is all compiled together to come up with one single probability. You can take my word for it, but honestly, I'd love to invite you to use these tools. We linked it up in the description of this video. You can go in, set up a free account for yourself, start fiddling with this exact same basic retirement forecasting tool and Social Security estimator and a bunch of other things in there you can have fun with. Start to know your numbers, because if you don't know your numbers, you won't know how to measure how far away you are from getting there, and you'll have no idea how likely you are to be successful.